I liked series, but I never stopped to see any, so I started doing Rapidly Reviewed. I also like movies and video games, so I started doing Critical Hits and Gamey Games. But something that I really need to do more is read. So why don't we start by the end with Zetman number 1? Zetman is a manga from 2002 telling the stories of I Don't Know, I Haven't Read It Yet. The manga starts with a prologue in different paper and colored panels, bringing a scene static in its movement in which the titular Zetman is fallen and someone else aims at him. And this scene caused me a certain weirdness. Don't get me wrong, this scene isn't bad as it were. I especially like how the rain creates a heavy atmosphere. And maybe this is continued in the next issues and makes more sense, but I must mention that this creates the sad weirdness with the 13 years ago that follows. The scene is at the same time static and out of the time flow, which seems to be the idea, but you can easily analyze this scene and predict a lot about the manga. The rain suggests that in at least a moment, if not most, it would be dark and heavy. Zetman, and we know who he is because of the cover, is obviously an anti-hero. His opponent, who asks how to kill him without pain, is obviously his counterpart, the character moved by honor and, because of that, thinks he needs to destroy the anti-hero, yet still believes in the end of his title. The problem is that this doesn't make me curious, but thinking it would be just another stereotypical action story. Even though these pages are objectively well done, the colors seem a bit too neon for the rain and situations noir. The title page with more distant color worked way better from that point of view, even if I think it could be a bit less colorful. Again, this is not a manga with bad breaks. Throughout, the 12 chapters are divided by pages completely in black on the left, which go by somewhat unnoticed at first, but soon you realize they are intentional and well utilized. This is the only part in which it doesn't seem to work so well for me. After the static scene, we see a couple, the woman trying to convince the man that they shouldn't leave since there is a murder spree, when Murphy attacks, possibly using Kung Lao's hat.
Fatality.
The story cuts to two men in suits going through a favela under orders of an older man. He and a homeless older man exchange a glance. No, Valentine's Day is long gone, like the manga made sure to let us know. And they ask about a kid with a scar on his hand, possibly caused by an onion ring that was too hot. Maybe they want to sue Burger King. Getting nothing, one of them stays behind, waiting for the residents to come back, and asks, "But what if he's already dead?" "He doesn't die even if they kill him."
He's not on any of my lists.
Somewhere else, a girl helps giving food to the homeless, but one of them complains, "But this doesn't even fill the belly! I want more! More!" "I'm sorry, but there are other people to eat." "Shut up! I don't give a crap! Look here! This is how it's done!" It's a funny scene and makes the girl want to bring the food they have at home, which establishes her naivete and kindness. In the third place, a stereotype of middle-aged man leaves a bank and it's attacked by a stereotype of a Japanese thug, and though he is seriously injured, the middle-aged man continues trying to follow the thug and recover his money.
Middle-aged man.
Asking for help with no answer until he falls in front of a stereotype of a bimbo that doesn't care about the blood running down his mouth and calls him a pervert, who is immediately stomped on her face, which to me was very gratifying after seeing the society of stereotypes ignoring a crime and only thinking of themselves, to the point of most simply looking and doing nothing. And the bimbo who only thinks of herself bleeding from the nose can be seen as a subtle comment on how this way of thinking is also responsible for the pervertedness of society, which is also quite gratifying. In the following panels, the feet of justice are shown without much detail running towards the thug, until starting his short but powerful special move combo. The boy, Jin, literally using the kanji for person, gives back the man's wallet and charges 10,000 yens. According to an internet converter, 332 reais and 46 cents or $95.99. But the middle-aged stereotype refuses, saying they were in it together. "Okay, you steal the old man at the bank, I wait in the alley to get it back, and you stop in front of him.
Oh, so he stops following you.
No, I just lead a trampoline. Without pay, he's reminded that he didn't go get any food and he only finds the girl, who kept him a portion. He notices her hand is bandaged and shows his, which hides what he calls an angel's halo. An annoying little cherub that decreed that I was predestined to be wrong like this. So I killed him and got his halo. I'd say these are the comments of a child and one who wasn't very exposed to cultures outside his own, if it weren't for the fact that his grandfather was the one who named it. What do you mean your hand isn't your head? The girl lets it slip that his grandpa had told her about him, and the boy of course asks about it, making her feel awkward and leading her to say she is his otaku. Every day you help people with problems, don't you? How super awesome!
I'm your #1 fan.
She says she wants to see him in action, and he promises that, as payment for the meal, he would help her free of charge, and they shake hands, with him remembering and changing hands because hers is hurt. In a genuinely touching moment to conclude a scene that establishes him as a kind boy, even if a naive one. All of that happens in less than 43 pages out of a 247-page long manga, so I really need to summarize a bit more now. And also because the action starts for real right now and I don't want to ruin it for whoever might still want to read it. At night, the boy uses his gang powers to beat a group attacking a woman in an alley, becoming the Prince of Persia. The woman is a stripper and gladly pays for being rescued, also giving him her card and promising him to pay for dinner. The grandpa, wanting him to have a normal life, takes the boy to bathe, buy new clothes, a toy, and to eat at a restaurant. But they see a man trying to kill himself in the river by their favela. When they come back, the boy jumps in to save him and brings him back up, his grandpa then telling him to get away from him. But that's in fact one of the responsible for the murders, a humanoid creature that attacks them both. I'm not going to show the fight because the boy falls onto the bodies of the other residents with their guts showing. The grandfather loses his arm and has to cauterize the wounds, and also the enemy melts in front of you. So if you don't like that kind of thing, I don't want to show it to you, but also I don't want to take the impact away of the images if you want to read it. Just one. I knew I shouldn't have invited Olaf to Rio, but I only thought he was gonna get shot once or twice. What am I going to tell Elsa? Jin gets his grandfather's arm and tries to put it back in place. And it might seem to be a bit of dark humor, but they establish the boy doesn't really know much about the world around him, and his notion of healing is limited to, for those wounds you just lick it and put it back. It heals by itself. Unfortunately, the grandpa was dead, having just said goodbye to Jim. He puts the body in a cart from one of the residents that wasn't there and starts to search for a doctor that could heal him, with no luck. In the beginning of this chapter, the black pages start to make sense, giving a sense of continuity and weight between the two. Finally, the boy thinks of asking the woman he saved for help, who was in the middle of a lingerie dance, Reed's lap dance, in which a client licks her boob and gets a punch to the face. And it's worth mentioning this, because in more sexist stories that could get her fired, but apparently it's just another day at the job. The limousine man goes back to the favela and discovers it was destroyed, after one of the men in black questions a survivor, finds out about Jin and kills him for having seen them. A new character disarms them both and says to the man he is there to sweep the bodies killed by imperfect beings that lost control, and he uses his capoeira to destroy the body of the last homeless guy left. The grandpa's body is taken to the hospital and Jin goes to the house of the woman he saved, Akemi, who spends 10 pages in the bathroom with him bathing. This is one of those infamous bathroom scenes that every single anime ever has, and it's a good example of the bad stuff they have. For instance, the sheer amount of nipples and Akemi posing which are there just for fan service. And and the good things, like members of a family unit in direct exchange of personal information and strengthening bonds, playing around and making comments that reveal the character's insecurities, like Akemi being afraid of being seen as older, that is, of losing her attractiveness, while washing their souls. I especially like the crying moment the two have, in which the bathtub becomes a sea when Akemi realizes Jin is an orphan and doesn't even understand his situation, which leads her to hug him, which triggers his memories of his grandfather and forces him to confront his loss. A little later they fight because she brings him clothes and he wants to keep wearing the ones his grandfather bought him. She then gets a visit of one of her co-workers for the first exposition that really seemed too obvious, which can be summarized to Akemi having lost a child, saying she is ready to start a new life with the kid and her savings, and right after her friend leaves, irony comes knocking. The ex-boyfriend attacks her on the stomach and is able to defend from the boy's kick with his knife, pushing him inside while threatening Akemi, says nobody loves her, and cuts her mouth in front of the kid, which awakens the Zetman in the kid and makes him attack until he falls over. The last two chapters show Akemi was taken to the hospital, the kid healed completely but has a heart in an odd position, which reminds the doctor about rumors of someone who would have created a human from scratch. And Jin decided to leave the apartment, blaming himself for all that happened. The detective knows the kid needs guidance to use his powers correctly, takes him to see Akemi, and they hug. Personally, I thought this manga was great. These 247 pages went by fast. The story concludes on a positive and it doesn't seem to be lacking a conclusion, but also doesn't abandon the dark with 2 pages that tell us that bad things are yet to come. It's an action story, but I found the balance between action and development good. At the same time, the detailed development seems way more literary in manga than in comic books. For instance, the toy Jin chose is a Santa doll, which looks like his grandfather according to him, who is revealed to have had plastic surgery done to change his appearance. In other words, before you know, the author is telling you that that beard, much like in most Santa costumes, is fake. And his can be an indication that him taking care of Jim and buying a present is not who he really is, as you probably had realized already. However, you could also say that this is Goro trying to be better, putting that beard on surgically so he would be, forever, an honest poor man worried about Jin, instead of Dr. Kanzaki, who was part of something that created players and led to murders and probably wouldn't raise Jin properly. I don't feel a huge need to read it again or see what happens in number 2, but it really made me want to read more, and I went out and bought all of this, which I'm sure to make for other episodes. Still, I will eventually see number 2 just because of the merits on number 1. Till then, though, I really have a lot to read, so I'll see you next time. Bye! All of that happened. I'm not going to show the fight because the boy falls on... Oh, damn it. These 247 pages went by fast. Quickly, fast, whatever. But also doesn't really... Oh, I should show the pages. 挑戦者あり